All right, so as she said, my name is Cindy Kitty, and I write fantasy. Do not panic, as I said. Tonight's talk will not be about magic and wizards or anything like that, so you are safe. I call tonight's talk The Unsuccessful Quitter, and I'll explain a little bit more about that later. And by the end of this evening, you all will be unsuccessful quitters. So a little bit about me. I love writing and reading. One of my earliest memories is, I was about maybe 2 years old or so, and my childhood bedroom had toile wallpaper, and there was a bunch of these like little vignettes of French provincial men and women, and they were, playing a lute or something like that, and we used to make up stories. When I was lying down for naps, I would make up stories of all the people on the wallpaper. And eventually that went even further, and that's how I started writing and being interested in that when I was a little girl. So what is an unsuccessful quitter? Well, if we can remember back to our grammar days in school, when you have a double negative, not, it's actually positive. So if you're unsuccessful at quitting, it means you do not quit. And I thought that was kind of cool, and my whole writer's journey is a bunch of almost quit moments where you'd hit a wall or have a defeat or something bad would happen or something defeating, like not having books on a night that you're supposed to be presenting. And what do? You have to make a decision of what you're going to do. Somehow I had passion, I had fire in the belly to really keep on this story that I had developed, and we'll get to kind of how that all came about. And despite layoffs and setbacks and even deaths of loved ones and moving cross country a couple times, somehow I managed to keep it going. So we have a couple points in my little talk tonight where I want to get you involved and hear about your passions, your goals, vocations, avocations. Does anybody want to volunteer? What puts fire in your belly? What's your passion? Do you have something that you make and perhaps you're thinking about bringing them to a farmer's market or anything? Anybody have something besides reading? We all know you read. But does anybody have any passions that are really kind of their alternative, their alter ego? Anybody have anything? Chickens. I know you do. Yes.
I have a passion for helping people through divorce. That's what I do for a living. And
Wonderful.
That's like I do some of it pro bono and I do a lot of it as a business.
Wonderful, wonderful. And it's so needed because it's like a death, but you don't have that same level of closure. That's really difficult. And Wayne, you have a passion. Now you're looking at helping people with taxes.
Yeah, all of a sudden I decided that I wanted to become an IRS enrolled agent. I've been doing IT work all my life, but I've also done taxes. I mean, I'm interested in finance and economics and helping people out. So yeah, I'm on this new path myself.
I think it's nuts.
64. So.
But I'm loving everybody. So see, all of us, and I'm sure many of you have some sort of passion or goal or something that really strikes a chord within you. And when you have that, you become an unsuccessful quitter because it's something that you hold so dearly that you just can't give it up, even those times when you want to, or even maybe that's times when you should. Like I said, I was always a storyteller. And when I got to be a little bit older, I would make up stories or write stories, kind of on the movies and TV shows that I loved. So I put myself into MASH. Yes, I was a Doogie Howser before there was one. I created, this 13-year-old, whiz kid. I put myself in Starsky and Hutch. Yes, I was a street urchin informant who was taken under the wing of Hutch there. And bionic woman, of course. I was the bionic girl. I was her niece, so I created those kinds of stories. But for me, what really ignited my imagination can kind of be summed up in 2 words. It's not recording. Star Wars! I was at the right age when that came out. I had just turned 11, saw it right after my birthday, and I just thought, I hated science fiction. I thought it was stupid. My parents were into Star Trek, and I'm like, yeah, live long and prosper, sure. And, but this was different. This had people and creatures, and things weren't sterile, and made things look real, and I just loved the concept of Jedi Knights, and it just was so imaginative and so different from anything that I had seen. So that really turned me on to something. For those of you that do have some sort of passion, if you want to, what kind of seriously motivated you to kind of go beyond a hobby or just an interest? A lot of what I'm hearing is it's helping people or making a connection. Yes, please.
I mean, mine is that for sure, but so my only sibling, my brother, was born with hearing loss. And so from the time I was 5 years old, I knew the difference it made when my brother got hearing aids. So that just catapulted me into, and as you say, many times I thought, I don't know if this is like really for me, but then I would go, through another door and another step and do it in a different way. But it was always about, I knew what it meant to both him and to my family.
And to help people kind of move past, unfortunately, there may be a stigma or something, and the technology is getting so much better, and helping them move for that. I mean, you have to hear what's the choice, not hearing? So that's wonderful. That's a wonderful
Could
mission.
you repeat what she said, because we can't hear it?
Oh, she said her brother had been born with some hearing loss, and she likes to help people move past that hearing loss and get hearing aids, make a huge difference, and to help themselves do what it takes to hear and have a bit of a easier, more full quality of life. Right.
Thank you.
Sure. Sorry. So I wrote my first novel in 1996. Yes, it was based on Star Wars. As I said, I was a huge Star Wars fan. It's called fanfic. If you don't know, fanfic or fan fiction is when you create a story or something based on some other movie or some other world that other people created. And I came up with my own thing. I also call it a trunk novel. In the literary world, a trunk novel is where you take your novel, you put it in a trunk, and you lock it so it never sees the light of day again. So that was that. But it taught me perseverance, it taught me writing skills, it taught me tenacity. Can I sit down and discipline? Can I sit down, write productively every day, even those days when I'm not feeling particularly creative? And that was foundational for my writing career. But as I said, a couple of friends and family read it, they loved it, I loved it, but you're not going to get anywhere being a cover band, right? You need to do your own thing. So this is one of the first major decision points in my writing career. Am I going to be a successful quitter? Am I going to quit and give up? Or am I going to be the unsuccessful quitter and continue to write my own story and move forward? That's certainly what I did. It was time to create something unique and completely my own, because a lot of folks said, you got some good ideas here, but you can't use their stuff. And so then I thought, what can I take from the story that I wrote, and can I repurpose it and make it new and create a whole new world? And there was a small minor character who had a very intriguing backstory. And that actually became the germ of a plot hook for what would become Trying Rising and the other books. Now the real journey began. So, okay, I have an idea, now what? I had to create an entire world and have lots of drafts and figure out the characters and how they all related to each other. What does the world look like? What are the economics? All of that when we create, especially something that's fantasy or science fiction that doesn't exist before. You have to do that in anything. If you're writing a story about New York City, you still have to bring people into that world. but it's a little bit different when you're writing something that doesn't exist. So again, after all of this hard work and horrible, horrible critique, in fact, the critique from the manuscript was so bad, the woman who critiqued it, which I paid handsomely for, said, "I hope your protagonist hurries up and dies so I don't have to read anymore." Now, I was working as a journalist at the time. I almost quit my job because I thought I'm such a bad writer. Oh, my editor only keeps me on because he's sorry for me. So again, we have another decision point moment. Am I going to give up after that? Or do I keep working on this story, believe in myself, and move forward? So I decided, no, there's something about this story that I can just see. That I can see the depth and the breadth of it. I can see it becoming one of those things where it has, spin-offs and TV shows and all this related stuff. And I wanted that to happen. So for those of you who have this passion, how did you maybe overcome your first setback? You talked about that you had some moments where you're like, ooh, I'm not sure this is the right thing. Do you want to share how maybe you moved through that first setback? And that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry.
No, it's fine, it's fine. So I know I want to help people here, and I started out in the public schools. And I went to a little county in Virginia, and they sent me to 15 schools. And I was supposed to go around and help children that had speech and hearing problems. And we never got to see them because, they had a program, they were sick, whatever. So we maybe saw them 4 times a year. And I felt like I was a failure because I couldn't help them. But it was because I couldn't see them because they didn't set me up for success.
Right.
So I left that job. But I
left
got
that
another
job,
one where I could-
but you learned, okay, I need to be able to see people on a more frequent basis to provide them what they really need. Right. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. So after all of this and having this horrible critique, and I had this ginormous book, it was the size of like the Oxford Dictionary, and life got in the way, as it always does, and I set it aside for many, many years. When I decided to take it up again, it's now about 2016, and I realized it needs some serious work. So I took one very long story, broke it into 3 books. My story was such that there were midpoint climaxes that would lend itself if I needed to carve out multiple books. Many more rewrites. And one horrible search for an editor. I had selected an editor who said some of the beginning magic scenes were, how did she say it? Worse than Mickey Mouse in Fantasia with the dancing brooms. So obviously she's probably not an editor I was going to work with. And she said, oh, the story is crap, it's fatally flawed. Your premise is fatally flawed. So after that, what am I going to do? Here's a professional editor, and she says this thing's a doorstop. Am I going to give up after all this work? Or am I going to keep searching for the right editor? I know this is a diamond in the rough. I'm not saying it's published ready yet. I know if I had some help, I can do something. Sure enough, I did. I eventually found a wonderful editor who had big publishing house experience and in my genre, so she knew her stuff, and she loved it. She took me on right away and really, really helped. So that was huge. That was very instrumental into creating the professional novels I have today. So at last, after going through some rounds of editing and whatnot, I had transformed it into a real novel. So now it's time to find a literary agent. A little thing that I don't know if you know, you don't just throw your manuscript to Random House and if they like it, they'll publish it. You have to go through a middleman, which is the literary agent. Basically, they're almost like a real estate agent, where they're like between you and the publishing house. So if they like your stuff, if they think it's sellable, so they're looking for something that they can sell like that, or what will sell for the publisher in about 18 months, because they work 18 months ahead, then you'll get an agent. If it's not the cutting edge flavor of the moment, whatever, they're not going to be interested. So it was a difficult part of the journey. I sent out over 100 query letters. Query letters are like your cover letter to your resume, if you will, and got 100 rejections of said query letter. And then it all kind of crashed and burned one horrible night. It was probably the worst night of my life. It was Christmas Eve 2019. I had this beautiful novel ready to go, but I couldn't get anybody to take it on. I couldn't get it sold to a publishing house. So I had a choice. Is it really done? Is this really the final edge? Or am I going to self-publish? Now, years ago, self-publishing had a really, really bad stigma. It still does, unfortunately, somewhat, although the quality has come up quite a bit. But if I wanted my book that I believed in, characters that I love almost like a daughter, if I wanted it to live, to see the light of day, that was my only option. So I decided, okay, fine, I'll self-publish. But what does that mean? I had no idea. I barely knew what the word was. I knew I would have technical skills and desktop publishing skills, but I had no idea. I had to teach myself everything. Formatting, how to save in specific file formats, the cost of producing the book, versus the pricing of the book. Did you know cream-colored paper is fractions of a millimeter thicker than white, so therefore there's more pages, it's a thicker book, costs more to produce, less royalties. To learn all of that, barcodes, vetting illustrators. I had a designer created wonderful covers. I wanted to eventually create t-shirts and stuff like that for expos and Comic-Con, that kind of thing. Well, because the base illustrations she used was like from Shutterstock, which is allowed, but the licensing didn't approve for merchandising. So all of that I could not use. So then I had to go back to the drawing board and find different artists who would come up with original art, transfer all the rights to me so I'd be able to market it. I had no idea about this. So that was a huge, huge learning curve, more than just uploading something and press print. So now, okay, fine, we've got some physical book on a file someplace. Now you have to let the people know that you exist. That's the big hill you have to climb when you self-publish. When you are picked up by Random House or something, you have some sort of marketing budget and they'll make a splash to a greater or lesser extent. But when you're in it by yourself, nobody knows. So you have to really just run your own show. And find PR people, marketing, social media. I had social media accounts, but they were business for my freelance writing and marketing career. They weren't geared to my author persona. So I had to start from scratch. So this was the thing. I'm reaching another hill. Do I want to quit? Because, I'm building an audience and getting this out. It's going to be too hard. Or am I going to keep pushing forward? I keep pushing forward. It's too good a book. It looks too good. So I taught myself the basics. There are different things when you're doing Instagram versus Facebook and TikTok. They're all have different kind of metrics and different ways of building an audience. And they're all different and they're all constantly changing. I wouldn't be doing social media if I didn't have to. So now it's your turn again to share, if you don't mind. What's your most recent setback and how did you overcome it? If anybody has something that they want to share. Yes, please.
Yeah, I had the same thing as you. I finished the book, and then my mentor said, oh, this is two different stories. So take this one and finish it, and then take this one and start it.
Good.
And yeah.
Oh my God, if you have any idea how long it took me to get this.
I'm doing it, I mean.
Good for you.
I'm not right, so.
Good for you, because you believe in both those halves, don't you? Exactly. Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you. Please come and talk to me when you're done. When we're done here. Thanks. Happiest day of my life. Unfortunately, God didn't bless me with children. He blessed me with children with tails. I'm a dog mom. And so, birthday of my book, so the closest thing I'm ever going to have to the birth of a child. And I launched my first book about almost exactly 2 years ago with Changing Hands, which I don't know if you know, that's another independent, well-known independent bookstore here in the Phoenix area. And they support local and independent authors a lot. They have, obviously they have, professionally or traditionally published books, but they're also. And at that time, the event, we were still in the middle of COVID, so it was a virtual event, and they were so kind and generous to us in the way that we put it together. They said that our event was the best attended virtual event that they had ever had, and we sold out of books. So for an independent author, a first-time author, that was just absolutely thrilling. So there was definitely a celebratory martini that night. So that kind of culminates things together when you combine your passion, your perseverance, and there's a purpose behind what your goal is. You will prosper in some way. It could be financial, it could be spiritual, it could be a combination of many, many things. For me, part of my definition of success came with critical acclaim and positive reviews. I will be honest, sales are slow. Sales are slow. I'm still trying to build that audience and get people to know that I'm here. That's where you all can help. When you go to your next pickleball thing, tell them about this amazing author you met. And I did get some really good top reviews and some awards. I'm so blessed to say the first book, Trying Rising, has received 6 literary awards so far, including, including I was named as a quarterfinalist in Publishers Weekly Independent Author book awards, so that was huge. And my second book, Trying Fallacy, the red cover there, has so far won 3 awards, and that's only been out a year, so that was huge. So So after getting Trying Rising launched and building all this, it was a trilogy, right? So I had to do all of this 2 more times. So that's what we did, and book 3, that white cover there, should be coming out and culminating the trilogy, should be coming out next week. So I'm thrilled. So what's next after this? Well, we hope to get an audiobook going. We can't wait to do that. I can let out my inner ham actor. And we'd love to see, there's definitely room for graphic novels and video games. The magic system and whatnot in my book centers around amulets, which is like a gemstone. I would love to do something with Pandora jewelry. Wouldn't that be cool? And have some sort of tie-in like that. So we've got lots of other things that we hope to do. I envision about 9 books in the central series and then spin-offs. So there's far more books than I think I have life for. So that is my presentation, and I hope that you will all think of yourselves as unsuccessful quitters because you all keep going for the passions that you love. So thank you very much, and Any questions? And if you think of them later, I'll be over at the table. Yes?
How did you get your title?
It was one of those weird things where it just pops in my head. Trying it means 3, and it's actually used in astrology. Now, I don't follow astrology, but I liked the name, the connotation sounded a little bit archaic, and it centers around my plot where you could have 3 types of powers, and normally most people just get 1. Well, my main character has all 3, and that person is known as a trine. So that's where that came. Yes?
What age group are you focusing on?
Yes. I would say 14 to 400. So the main characters are teenagers. They're 16 years old, but a couple of other voices are adults. So it kind of is crossover between YA and adult, because a lot of the themes in the writing is more introspective and more mature than your typical young adult novel.
Well, Cindy, you told me that your biggest following is women 40 plus, and I think
Yes.
you don't
Yes.
have anyone in our book club that old.
That's
I
why.
don't know how well this would go over.
One of my biggest fans, she normally reads books similar to you guys read thrillers, or even Clive Cussler. She never read fantasy. She's 85 years old. She just went nuts over it. She was so grateful. She was great to have on the when we did Zoom events, because here's this woman that this was not her genre at all. And that was one of the things that inspired me. I wanted to write fantasy that anybody could find approachable. So the magic makes sense. It's not so hard to grasp, and you have the father character, and he's in his mid-50s, and he's a soldier, but he's a huge family man. He's wondering, he's fought the wars for forever. He's wondering, am I past my shelf life? I mean, that's something that we, can think about. The mom is sort of like the governor, and she's caught between, I have to, send everybody to war, but that also means sending my own child, and as a mother, what wouldn't you do to protect your children or your grandchildren? You'd do anything. You would do anything. And that's what the parents are fighting for, because if word gets out that their daughter has all these powers, the bad guy's gonna come and kill her. So they'll do anything to keep her true identity a secret. So there are really gripping human elements in this series. And that was important. I wanted it for people who don't normally read fantasy to read this and get something out of it. Yes?
How long does it take you to write a book? Are you writing, do you have a schedule every day where you write, or has that been part of it?
No, I'm a pretty fast writer, and I think that's because I was a journalist for many years. I can usually put together a rough draft 6 months or so. I do try, when I am in writing mode, I do try to write every day if I can. So I can usually, I start off with a bulleted outline. I'm an outliner. They call them pantsers or plotters. Do you write by the seat of your pants, or do you plot? I plot, because it's so much easier, and I can figure things out that way and see how everything works. So I'm a pretty fast writer. Yes?
I can only imagine the reasons, but why do you write under an alias?
I'm glad you asked that question. It's kind of interesting. We don't have a lot of boys in our family, and not that we as women nowadays can't keep our maiden names or anything like that, but I tend to be kind of a traditional person. And I want, like I said, I don't have any children, I wanted that family name to live, to exist. And so my maiden name is Donnelly. C is for Cindy, K is for Kitty, because he's the K. And, I thought long and hard about hyphenating my name, but that takes too long, and, on a check or on a business card, so that's why the C is Cindy, the K is Kitty, but Donnelly is my maiden name, and I wanted that to survive, to have a legacy. I have many bylines under Kitty as a journalist, but I wanted something under Donnelly. Thank you for asking me. Anything else? Well, thank you again. I appreciate this so much.
Thank you. Thank you. That was very interesting. Before tonight, I had never met Cindy. And I don't know if I mentioned it, but one of our book club members, this is a friend of hers. And when I said, I really want a speaker for one of our events, she recommended Cindy, and I thought, thank heaven. So thank you so much. It's an honor to have you here.